Good afternoon from Sydney, Australia. My name is Trevor Dornbos. I work for Aprika Business Solutions, the creators and the owners of Mission Control for your project management and professional services automation needs. I'll be your host for the next hour. We're going to go through the whys of Mission Control, who uses it, the value they get from it, and then we'll dive into a full solution walkthrough, starting with fundamentals, then going through some examples of process. And as time allows, we'll take questions as we go, and certainly at the end. Quick history on Mission Control. Mission Control started its life as an internal application for Colin and Chris, our co-founders, as they started Aprika Business Solutions as a Salesforce systems integration partner. So implementing Salesforce for customers. They built out some custom objects in their Salesforce instance. And then in 2012, that was released on Salesforce App Exchange after passing security review, and has grown in that time exponentially into the solution we're going to see today. We do call it a PSA, Professional Services Automation, because it covers all those aspects of project management, resource management, cost management, billing, invoicing, all those aspects. And we'll go through that. So why Mission Control? Well, the core value is if you're on Salesforce or you're considering Salesforce, Mission Control is built natively on Salesforce. So when you install it from Salesforce App Exchange into your instance, it's in your instance. It's under the control of your Salesforce administrator or anyone they grant access to configure. And it works out of the box. So we don't have different tiers for the application. You get access to 100% of Mission Control. And what you see in this demo is what's available in the application. Within 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes, you can download Mission Control from Salesforce App Exchange into your Salesforce org and have a full working version of Mission Control. There's no need to code or anything else. It's certainly just choosing how you want it to work for you. We provide a great deal of online documentation through our website, from user guides, knowledge base, online support through our award-winning support team, webinar recordings such as this one, training videos, how-to videos from Cosmo Campfire webinars, Cosmo being our mascot, as well as a plethora of other information. And while we're headquartered in Australia, our support team is based in both Australia and North America. So we're actually able to support you globally with follow the sun support. And what's the core value that customers are getting from Mission Control? Well, the business and economic impact report that we had done by an independent consulting company was a result of them interviewing 100 Mission Control customers to find out, well, what is it specifically you were getting as a value from Mission Control? And while those figures seem high, you'll see from the report, it's extremely realistic. For what turns out to be a moderately small investment, you can get an exponential return on that. And some of those core areas, which you'll see in the report, which is in the link at the bottom of the screen, but you can certainly find it on our website, down to the details of, a 10% increase in revenue, as well as things like improvements in operational efficiency and improvements in utilization and profit. That's something that's leveraged and realized by a lot of our customers. And how happy are our customers? We're very, very proud of our Net Promoter Score, or NPS, if you're familiar with that. G2, which is a software rating site and comparison site, we're one of the highest rated professional service automation solutions around, native to the Salesforce platform, certainly. And if you're familiar with the software as a service industry, it's not unusual for software as a service apps to be in the 50 to 60 range as far as Net Promoter Score goes. And certainly our customers are extremely happy. I quite often hear the phrase, you've got lightning in a bottle with Mission Control. It's truly that good. And I mentioned award-winning support. Certainly Salesforce recognized our customer support in 2023 as being exponentially one of the best in the region for an independent software vendor like us. And as far as going live, how long does it take to implement mission control? Well, almost 90% of our customers say they can be up and running in under a month. And that's whether that's self-implemented, using our professional services, or working with a software implementation partner, systems integration partner. And who's using mission control? Well, one of the interesting things, it's not vertically focused just on professional service or consulting. It's a very horizontal solution in that it goes across multiple industries, multiple needs, and certainly at the depth of the product, as you'll see, sort of covers that in great detail. If you're in Australia, about 10% of the logos you see up there are actually from Australia, New Zealand, Asia Pacific. Speaking of Australia and New Zealand, one of my favorite customers, Brands over in Wellington in New Zealand, they've now been using Mission Control for several years. And they came back to us after year one of implementing Mission Control, where they'd taken everyone off their desktops and Excel files, put them onto Salesforce with Mission Control. And they said in year one, they were able to reduce the amount of administration and manual work to build reports and all that information for their project managers to actually save 4 days per project manager every month. And then the following year, they came to us and said, with no additional hiring, no additional spend, that actually had a 30% increase in efficiency because they're able to automate and centralize all that information. We're eminently scalable. Our user minimum is 5 users, but then you look at customers in the Fortune 100 space, such as Cardinal Health, who certainly are in the hundreds of users. And we've got Fortune 10, 20 customers where Mission Control is being used in divisions. But of course, we can't share their names, can't divulge. Maybe I'll whisper it to you one day. And Mission Control is what's called an ISV Force application. What that means is we don't OEM the Salesforce license, because if you're already using Salesforce, why would you want to pay for those licenses twice? So if you've already got Salesforce, great news, you're ready to use Mission Control. And if you need additional licenses, you can leverage that negotiation with your Salesforce account exec. And those are all the levels of licenses that are supported, certainly both internally and also if you're sharing out to your customers or your partners. And the core benefit about being native to Salesforce is the ability to configure and control. You want to add automation with a flow. You want to make sure people add notes on their timesheets with a validation rule. You have very comprehensive approval processes outside your project owner and manager approving time or expenses. Then you can do that with the Salesforce approval processes and Salesforce reports and dashboards. So no integration required because we're built on Salesforce. So to simplify that, you save something in Mission Control, it's inside the Salesforce database. So it's real-time access. So you get that real-time information. What's in Mission Control? Well, I like to call this our feature wall, and this is really more to show the areas of project management and resource management that Mission Control covers. So from a resource management perspective, the people, the roles that have been assigned to a project, to pieces of work, that could be a person, it could be a placeholder role, it could be a piece of equipment, it could be an asset, and being able to capture down cost levels and billing levels, so you know what the project's actually costing you to run. Grouping those roles into teams by geography or capability. So if you need someone internal in the internal team who's based in Sydney and has skills with consulting, then it makes it easy to search by team, but then also looking at skills as well. Being able to schedule, reassign using Resource Assignment Wizard and scheduler to reassign between people, move things around, and lots of ways to actually manage that. And being able to track things, not just historical utilization, but also full holiday management. And from a project management initiation perspective, being able to leverage building a project from scratch, creating multiple templates, being able to copy between projects using a milestone loader, and also being able to auto-generate projects from, for example, from an opportunity, as we will later, or using our project request object, you can generate a project pretty much from any Salesforce object. or some action that's happening. Perhaps you have a web form, and when a request comes in, you want a project to be created. That's very straightforward with Mission Control. And how you manage your projects, how you actually visualize your projects, extremely flexible. All the same information presented in the ways that you might be familiar with using them, whether you're using Agile, Waterfall, Scrum, we cater for that. Certainly a project overview, which will cover off a lot of detail. Some people do love a Kanban whiteboard. Others want to manage from within the Gantt chart, and certainly can do that. Or maybe use things such as the action pad, a list of all your project actions. And if you need to get deep into project management with multiple dependencies and baseline variance tracking, that's all built in. Risks and issues, being able to look at aspects of projects from their performance, from a cost performance and a schedule performance with the PMO dashboard and within the projects themselves. Being able to bring in multiple stakeholders to make sure they're getting visibility of what's happening, retrospective, looking back over your milestones, your phases, your projects, and find out what worked well and what could we do better with those lessons learned. And time tracking, which of course everyone loves to do. The value in time tracking with Mission Control is there's multiple places, about 7 or 8 places within the online app, and certainly with the mobile time logger app as well. Being able to sort of determine how people can log time, what information they need. Do they have to add notes? Is it billable or non-billable time? Do they want to use a stop-start timer? Do we need approvals? Are we leveraging Outlook or Google Calendars? Do we want to see our calendar events in our timesheet so we can log time easily against those? And then full financial management from a project perspective. So we're capturing the cost of delivery, any expenses, any invoices against the project, and being able to push that through also to billing events and making them ready to go across to your finance system. So being able to have an invoice, pro forma invoice, if you like, and then have that ready to be pushed across to your finance system. One of our systems integration partners, who's also a strong Mission Control customer, was saying at an event this time last year how they've automated all their timesheets. They don't even worry about approvals anymore because everyone's very efficient at doing their time. And it enables them to get billing a lot quicker. It means project managers don't have to hang back on Fridays or the weekend to approve time. And they just have a very small percentage of credits to projects where perhaps more time's been charged than should have. Capturing expenses, tracking purchase orders, credit notes, all that manner. If you're working in multi-currency, and also automatically tracking revenue recognition. Program management, not going to cover that today, but that's how our software development team develop the 3 releases of Mission Control each year. So using an agile sprint approach to build out the user stories and requirements and user stories and build them into sprints and execute that on developing Mission Control as a product. And certainly leveraging Salesforce Chatter from a collaboration perspective, but also aspects like our meeting manager, Salesforce files, and being able to get information out to key stakeholders in the status reports and read-only page, and certainly all the other aspects of the productivity tools. So let's get to the demo portion. So first of all, I'll be covering off the fundamentals of Mission Control. So resource management fundamentals, project management fundamentals, and invoice management. And then I'll take you quickly through a flow of creating a project, assigning a piece of work, logging that work, and taking that through to billing. So let's start with resource management fundamentals. And we go into Mission Control. First of all, before I start, I've logged into Mission Control into my demo org. I might start my journey here in the console. And the console is a collation of wizards based into things you're launching, things you're progressing, things you're managing more deeper, as well as the control pad where you put your system-wide settings. You're going to see at the console and in projects, a trackpad, and you can choose what aspects you see here. But obviously having things such as chatter feed, the timeline of what's happening overall, logging time, expenses, adding actions, risks, what have you. So the key thing about resource management is roles. A role is a person, a placeholder, an asset, whatever you're assigning a piece of work to. And if we look at creating a role, that has many aspects that you can use. So first of all is, where are we going to source that role? Is this actually going to be a Salesforce user record? Is this person going to be logging on and using Mission Control? Are they a customer? We just want to have them assigned and notified, so we have them as a contact. Or is this an asset? An asset, obviously something like a meeting room or a piece of equipment, what have you. Giving it some title and having a function, another layer, being able to sort of break down the function of what's happening. Now, for your working resources, your consultants, developers, designers, builders, architects, whatever, you can set an hours per week. And that's really useful when you get to the timesheet stage of saying, have they logged enough hours, and using the automation to make sure they have. We've got billable resources. Do they have a billable target percent? And that we'll look at that in role utilization, how you can determine, are they hitting their targets? And do they work a 5-day week, or are they working, maybe a 3-day or a 4-day week? And you can determine that. You can also track their hourly cost rate and billable rate, and that's a great way to build out that costing in the project level. As far as what people get access to in the role, permissions, do you want them to get the daily digest? Maybe if they only work a 4-day week, don't work Fridays, we don't want to send that to. Are they a manager where they're managing timesheets or other people's timesheets? Or do you want to restrict things, just to what they're doing? They can't see outside that. You can track and manage expenses in Mission Control. So do they have an approver? Do they have a specific mileage rate? And when they go to the console we just saw, what do they go to when they go in there, and do they have access to all the tabs? And you can restrict that. Trackpad we saw at the right, where we have the chatter and all the other aspects. You can determine what people see there. And then when we get into the project level, there's a lot of information in the project that maybe not everyone needs to see. So maybe certain people, you don't want to see things such as billing or revenue recognition, and maybe they don't need access to all the charts. There's also a thing called Project Overview Insights, where there's a lot of deep detail, and you can determine which charts they see. Also, if they've got access to the Mission Control Scheduler, what aspects of that can they use? Also, Gantt Chart settings, all those other aspects, and the list goes on. And then that takes us down to teams and skills. So we'll cover that off briefly in a minute, but here's an example of one I've done earlier. I've got my active internal roles, and let's have a look at Alana at the top here. And we can see that Alana's details are being completed. She does a 40-hour week. She has 80% billable target. She works Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day. We've got her billable rate and her cost rate. And we've also got her tracking her holiday management. So she's got holiday allowances, and she can track what she's got left, and then we can see what she has access to through here. Now, if I have a quick look at the related list here, other than things such as holidays, whatever, we've also got skill assignments and team assignments. So if we look at those, just as they quickly populate. So the team assignments, you can have multiple teams. So for example, Alana's internal, she's part of the APAC team, and she's on the consultants team. And the main team, her master team, if you like, is the consulting team. But if I'm looking for someone who's on consulting, that's also in Asia Pacific, then I can group those in my search criteria. Alana's also got a group of skills here with different proficiency levels. And this is really useful when you're looking for someone specific, not always going with the same person all the time. We have an example of some teams here. They could be assets. They could be based on location. They could be based on their capability, even placeholder roles, what have you. And then from the skills perspective, that could be anything from a certification, language, skill, could be a trade, could be something else like that. So again, that level of granularity is there for you if you need to use it. So team skills, role availability. Okay, well, while I'm here looking quickly at Alana, maybe you need to manage her availability rather than just relying on holidays, whatever, there might be a period of time where you're seconding her to another part of the business. So you can actually specify the start and end date and the hours that's available. And there's a number of ways you can do that with Mission Control. Holidays and holiday allowances we've touched on. Let's have a look at the resource planner. So now we've got all my roles. I've actually assigned them to projects. That's really useful. And let's have a quick look. I'll just refresh the dates on this. It's been sitting there a while. I've been preparing for the webinar, so just bear with me. Any questions for yourselves while I'm just sitting here waiting for my screen to refresh? Here we go. Yeah, the question is everything I'm showing out of the box capability? 100%. None of this is custom. There's no code. There's nothing in here, definitely in my demo org, that's non-standard. I will have one very simple Salesforce flow I can show you later, but other than that, it's very much out of the box capability. It's just configuration and choosing options. I'm just going to quickly say, let's have a look from now to the end of December. Now, anywhere you see one of these green funnels at the right-hand side here, that's a filter. These filters can be saved and shared, and they're really useful in each aspect of Mission Control because you can choose what you want to filter by and swap between filters. You might say, show me all my consultants, show me all my APAC team, show me all my people by a certain skill set. So really you can sort of drill down into that granularity. And I'm thinking NBN has not been kind to me. Let's just have a quick look at the scheduler and see if that's going to work for us. And see if that's an internet issue. Just while that's refreshing. My resource planner is still, here we go. So that's come back, fantastic. So there's my resource planner. What I'm looking at here, I've filtered by my key roles. So if we have a quick look at that filter, what that looks like, I've got a few filters I can choose from. I've chosen key consultants, and then under, I've just filtered to specific roles, but you might have divisions, project categories, teams, whatever you want to look at, you can have multiple filters. I can see for each of my individuals, based on the hours per week they work, from we saw on the role record, what their capacity, what their total hours of assignment is, and then what that means for a capacity perspective for this time period. Color coding, the blue is actions, a project actions where you're assigning a piece of work. Forecast, we have opportunity and project role forecast, so sort of like soft bookings, like we know we need this person, we want to do a forecast booking, but we haven't actually got a hard assignment for them for this yet. Any holiday, PTO, annual leave, whatever it may be, you can track in here as well. And then the capacity lines. We can still see we've got a lot of white area, a lot of capacity. And I'm looking at both actions and forecasts. So forecasts are those soft bookings there. And I can see, yeah, Lana's pretty busy. If I then flip across to a planner view, and this is amazing because a lot of people are doing this in Excel today. Saying, oh, I speak to clients and they say, well, yeah, we're doing this in Excel, or we've got two separate tools to do this, but it's not connected to the project management. There's no way of actually automating that process. Okay, so I'm grouping this by role. I could also do it by project opportunity. We're having actions and forecasts, and I could view by the billable or the cost value. And I could look at that daily, weekly, or monthly, saying, how are we looking for the next quarter? Let's have a look at the next 3 months. I'm just looking from now to the end of the calendar year. And I can see Alana's at 96. She's the highest utilized by the look of it across the board. And come early December, it looks like there's a bit of a problem, including her working a pretty long week leading up into Christmas. So what I can do very quickly is have a look at not just is it billable, non-billable, is it holiday? So it looks like, well, holiday, we've got Christmas and Boxing Day in there, a couple of annual leave days. I can see all the projects where the time has been assigned. And here's my opportunity forecast. We're expecting this. And I can see these now where you see these hyperlinks. I can go into the individual project if I need to manage that. Or what I could do is probably go to the scheduler, and the scheduler is where I can manage all my resources in one place. Again, there's one of those beautiful green filters at the right, and I filtered that again to my key consultants, and I can see what people are working on. So if I look at that at the project level, I can see at a high level what projects are working on. I can see how many hours they use. I can see Alana's actually got time off Friday and Monday, so a good long weekend. Oh, I see there's a bit of a problem here. It looks like she's double booked. I can even go to the action level and say, what are the specific project actions? So build page content, got 16 hours, and she's got deliver training. Okay, well, the deliver training is probably something we can't shift this close to that. So if I talk to the project manager and say, look, can we reschedule this, or I can reassign it to maybe to someone else, and maybe give Joel a bit more work to do at the beginning of the week and gives them some time off on Friday, and very quickly I can see the impact of that. If I want to see it more like the resource planner, I can see a heat map and see where people are not working. We've marked weekends as non-working days, and we can't, with my settings, assign work to a non-working day. So it sort of protects people from being assigned to different things. And then the upshot of people historically being assigned to work is tracking. We're looking at September for Alana. I could do this by team or master team. And I can see, look, is that billable? Is it non-billable? Is it excluded? Is it holiday? Excluded, good example, people ask what's excluded time. Well, might be that Alana's been seconded to work on an RFP, so you want to exclude that time so it doesn't affect her billable percentages. And then you can report on that. I think we've got here daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. And you can look at those percentages. So there's things like utilization. How many hours has she logged? What is her capacity based on those hours? What's her billable capacity? So billable capacity is basically her available time. So if she's got holiday book, then you don't want to consider that. So automatically calculates that. So we can see across the board, she's pretty much, her capacity performance is a little low, but her overall billable performance is pretty close to the money, and her utilization is pretty high as well. So what about project management? Now, let's deep dive into the project management quickly and work through that. And I've got a sample project for this. It's one that I've done before. So when we look at a project in mission control, there's a number of ways we can look at it. I've got absolutely every tab open. My role record, as we saw earlier, has everything activated. So obviously the things you don't need for people, you can minimize them. Also, this project doesn't just have milestones. I've also got phases. So I've actually broken my milestones into initiation and delivery phases. You don't need those, but they're available for you. And each of my milestones actually has a milestone budget on it that I can track to. In this example, it's a fixed fee milestone billing. We'll cover that shortly. And then under my milestones, I've got green icons here, and these are the project actions. And the actions are where we're assigning the piece of work. And the action owner, you can have contributors, multiple people working on it, start and end dates. And that's just where you have your estimate versus actual. So a scheduled time versus the hours completed by time log. That completion, hours, etc., rolls up right to the top level. So any actions under a milestone roll up to a milestone, roll up to a phase, roll up to the overall project. So it's very easy to actually track progress as well. Let's have a quick look at what we want to cover here. So project work breakdown structure. And look, if I'm creating a project, we're not going to cover that today, but if I actually want to manage and maintain it, we've got this great create actions pane, and I've limited some of the fields in here to keep it nice and simple. I can see the ones completed. If I wanted to add a row or make changes, I've also got a thing called the resource assignment wizard. So maybe Alana's not going to be available to deliver training. So I can, from many places in mission control, go, well, okay, I need someone who's a consultant to deliver on the 27th of November. If Alana says she's not going to come back from a long weekend, okay, well, Mick Fanning is going to be the one. I can actually assign that piece of work to Mick. So it's taking me seconds rather than phone calls, emails, consulting spreadsheets. So extremely powerful, efficient, and makes life a lot easier. We can see here we've plugged in dependencies, typical, follow to start, start to start, all sorts of dependencies. and other aspects, whether it's billable time, non-billable time, priorities, but certainly there's a lot of aspects that you can look at from there. Other things you might want to look at here is if you're tracking risks or issues, you can do that live within the project, and you're giving your customers access to mission control, maybe through a community. Then you can have them collaborate, but certainly your internal users can collaborate on risks. Maybe you progress those into issues, you can track those as well. Now, as far as the actions that we saw under the work breakdown structure, a number of ways you can view those actions. One is the action pad, and this is under the project, but we'll see that later standalone, so we can see what's actually happening, what's completed, and we can see what's coming up. So I can see I've got 32 hours allocated for build page content, no time logged, and it looks like that should have already started this week. Maybe Alana hasn't actually logged time. We see Alana's the owner and a couple of contributors helping her with that. And you can just tick these things off as you go. You can log time here. There's that resource assignment wizard, very powerful. There's also the Kanban view under the whiteboard, so exactly the same data, but in ways that you might want to look at it. So I'm looking at it here by milestone. So maybe, okay, I want to have a look at things by priority. There's our top 2 priority items. That one looks like it's actually done more hours than we should have, 13 out of 8 hours. So we can stop that as well if we need to. And I'm going to have a look at things by status. So very old school, like inbox, what we're working on, anything on hold, and what's complete. So we know we've only got one thing left to do after these actions are done. And I've got my project, my milestone, my action, a unique number, and any 5 fields I want. And I've just got start date, end date, allocated hours. That gives you the ability to track that. Other aspects which are kind of important, and I'll come back to project insights. Actually, no, let's jump into insights now. So that was one of the settings we had on the roll record. We were able to very quickly get an insight of what's happening with our project. So you can select which of these charts you want on or off per project, per person viewing it. And cost performance index is based on hours logged against the project. So on a weekly basis, automatically, you can say once all the timesheets are in, run the update and tell us how we're tracking. This one looks like it's gone from green to amber. That's not great. And the schedule looks like it's running behind. So without having to even see anything else, we know there's some things we need to look at with this project. We can see there's an overdue action here, that build page content we saw that started this week. There's a risks summary. There's a bunch of issues here. And we can also see the financial implications. So how much billable time have we delivered, how many hours? This one started at 98 billable. It looks like we've added some non-billable which weren't factored in, so that's probably something we need to look at. We're tracking purchase orders, we're tracking expenses, we're tracking P&L, our margin, as well as the invoicing. So there's a lot of aspects you can track here within the project. 3 more things: budget items, Gantt chart, and retrospectives. And if there's anything you see on the project that you're interested in, I can dive into that too. Budget items. So typically where you've got things other than just the overall cost of the project, maybe you want to separate out those budgets. And this is very prevalent in a lot of our construction customers where they might have materials, subcontractors, whatever, and you can actually assign the hours, as it were, log the hours against the budget item, any costs, expenses, invoices, inbound, and cover it off through there. Gantt chart, very, very powerful and interactive Gantt chart with mission control. You could manage your whole project from within mission control. So we can see the dependencies, the critical path, what's happening. I've got different priorities on my actions. I can see that we've got project, phase, milestone, action, as well as checklist items. So if you need another level to mark things off, you've certainly got that there. I've also sort of showed the predecessors with the dependencies and lag times, and the ability to actually be able to reschedule very quickly. Maybe we need more time to actually do this. Now you'll also notice, hopefully, that there's some grayed out areas which are showing for people such as Alana that they're not available this weekend. So we saw earlier the Lana's on a long weekend, and that's showing in the Gantt charts. You're not having to actually go separately to find out that information. Very powerful. It's bringing that to your fingertips. Of course, you can export the Gantt chart. We'll see that in the status report when we get to a deep dive right at the end. And there's a lot of aspects you can include. There's certainly settings, different columns. You can include your own custom fields as well. You might have custom columns and fields that you care about. You might want to show baselines, baseline variances. Certainly, I'll show an example later if time allows. And retrospectives. So if you're looking back over your milestones, over your projects, at the project level or even at the company level, you can say, well, what's actually working well? So, what's the things that we need to look at? What is the retrospective? So requirements. When we go through requirements, what are the things that work for us well? And as far as collaboration, report on that. So the next time we do a project, we do more of that. So we can drill into that. As far as the opinion as well, is what are those aspects as well as categorizing those. So what things can we do with collaboration that we did well or we could actually do better? And then finally, around the project management deep dive is invoice management fundamentals. So let's just jump into this, actually the same project. I've just got it in the little tab to remind me. And when we look at the billing, so mission control gives the ability and flexibility to choose the way that you're billing. So, for example, under the project settings, this project is fixed price and expenses. So that's nice and simple. It could be just fixed price, could be time and materials. You could have different billing requirements per milestone. Maybe the first one's fixed price, and then the following ones are time and materials, as well as things such as deposit or retainer. Maybe you charge your clients a certain amount per month up to a certain number of hours, and after that you start billing them time and materials. Or maybe you invoice them 10,000 up front, and then once they've expended that 10,000 based on the hours and the cost and charge rate, then you start billing them time and materials. And then being able to base that either by a standard, by a day rate, by the role who's delivering the piece of work, each action. Maybe, for example, for Lana's delivering, for her role, she has a certain billing rate, or maybe it's skill-based. So the skill, maybe if someone's delivering training, we charge one fee versus if that same person is doing design, as well as having rate cards, which you can have per customer to simplify that. And then from the billing cycle side of things is how often we're going to do the billing and how we're going to do the billing. This example is using milestone billing, or maybe we do the billing manually. It's up to the control of the project manager to decide when to do it, or we run it periodically. Maybe we run it monthly. And that's really powerful because we've had customers who used to do monthly billing, but because of all the automation and mission control, they can actually go to a periodic 2-weekly billing or fortnightly billing, which means that improves their cash flow. All of those financial aspects are actually captured if you actually want to have expenses with markups, and it gives the ability to track things real time as things are going through on the project. So let's get to that process flow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at an opportunity. I'm going to create a project from that opportunity. I'm going to assign a resource and log on as that resource, have a quick look at how they might do things, and we'll take that through to that billing and talk about that handoff there. So let's close that up. So I've got an opportunity here, pretty straightforward. Oh, let me just hit refresh here. Just doing a bit of testing earlier to make sure it was still working the way I wanted it to. And that's why we already have a project here. So my apologies. Let's just quickly get rid of that. As you were. So we have a Salesforce opportunity, reasonably vanilla. When we install mission control, part of the quick start guide is say add these 4 fields into your page layout. And in this example, I'm using what's called the opportunity generation method, where I'm going to take my whole template. I'm going to realign the start date for my project to today's date, and I'm going to generate the project. There's also, if you're leveraging opportunity products in Salesforce, there's a number of ways you can leverage that to create your projects. So maybe you're selling 3 different modules, and for each module, you want specific milestones to be involved. And you can do that, a one-to-one product to milestone. Or we also ran a webinar on how you could actually generate a whole suite of projects, even generate a whole program. So a lot of examples. Now I can quickly generate the project at any time in my project and quite in my opportunity. And quite often that people do that at the scoping stage. Now the one piece of automation I've got in my org is rather than tick that manually, I'm going to say, well, my process is when it's close one, I want it to generate a project. So it's going to tick the box for me. So that's the only non-standard part of my org. And pretty much by the time the confetti's settled, we'll have a project sitting here in our related list. So let's just hit refresh. And we can see, here we go. There's our project. It's named after our opportunity. It's linked to our account. It's taken the budget from the opportunity, and it's taken the start date from the field here. If you've got other values and additional, custom fields you want to carry across the project, you can do that through the control pad and just align those very easily. I go into the project. My personal role record says we're always going to come into the work breakdown structure. I've got alerts here telling me this should have started already. I've got placeholder roles from my template, which makes it easy, not just to determine who I need, but also already has the costing and the billing built in. So, which is really useful for costing out projects. So if you want to do that top down or bottom up approach, number of ways we can assign. I can use the auto assignment. Now this template's actually got a couple of things. I can either go by the team, the master team, or the skill. I'm saying this project's got a number of skills that we want people to have, and using the auto assignment wizard, it's going to go and look at those criteria, the skill, the level of skill that person has, what's their proficiency, even down to their enjoyment level, plus any other factors. So I can see the match there. So I say, okay, I want design to be Joel, documentation to be Alana, project management to be Mick, and training also Alana. Fantastic, and I'll assign that. So this is typically something that could take sometimes hours in organizations, finding the right information, checking people's calendars. And it's amazing, the efficiency this actually creates. So I can see all my allocations. We can automatically notify these people that have been assigned to this. Maybe I've done that and I hit refresh and comes back. And then Joel says, oh, actually, design UI, I'm planning on going away on the weekend. Could we get someone else to do that part, or could we shift it? It's like, not a problem. I'm going to use the resource assignment wizard. I can see I need developer with design, and let's just see who else might be available to take over for Joel. It's like, okay, Kai's probably the next best person. Yeah, okay, I might have to, I could assign that to Kai and then maybe look at moving his other work, which I can see is actually billable. So maybe we won't do that. We'll just need to find another replacement. And that's where that scheduler we showed earlier is also going to be very, very useful. I could actually change the criteria for that. So we've created the project, we've assigned our resources. If we need to make any changes, we can do that. We can, we've done the auto assignment, those aspects. But really what I want to do now is I want to look at the first action we need to get done, which is Alana needs to get that requirements meeting done. She's already headed off to do the work, and she just needs to have that action there ready for her to log it. So let's jump into, rather than log in, log out, I'm just going to use my sysadmin privileges. I'm going to log in as Alana. And Alana's got a different view of the world. She's got the console, but only one pad. And then similar to what you see the wizards here is what she's got across the board mostly. So the first thing she might do is she's going to say, well, what have I actually got on my plate? I'm just going to go to the action pad to see what am I actually working on. Okay, there's the ACE implementation services and requirements meeting. You've got 8 hours, fantastic. And see at the right-hand side that there's a couple of checklist items that she needs to address. So if we click on the checklist item manager icon, she says, oh, okay, yep, I did that with the client, and they were nice enough to sign that off while I was there, which is fantastic. She could log time while she's here. So there's a number of places you can log time. the time modal pops up. Maybe she only did the time she spent with the client. So look, I spent 3 hours, design validated. You can also determine that people have to put notes in. Allow them to select overtime. You can choose which of these fields are available. I'd say, well, I'm just going to log time. Well, Lana's going to log time, so I'm logged in as Alana. And what if I want to have a look at different aspects? So there's other ways. There's filters, of course. I can filter, to my key projects, actions. So I've just filtered for Alana what's on for this week, so she's not swamped by everything. But if she prefers a more visual view, then the Kanban board might be the way to go. And the Kanban board is exactly the same actions, not filtered so much. So, okay, what's the status? I've color-coded my project so I can see the difference. Typically you might go different divisions, types of work. There's our requirements meeting. Yeah, that's all good. 2 out of 2. But you know what? Let's go and complete that time. And yeah, it was another 5 hours. That was still, we'll put that under design. Design accepted and signed off. Again, and I could just mark that as complete here, or what I can do, because I just get a great feeling from doing it, is I can say, okay, hours are all complete, checklist items are all complete for 100%. I'm just going to drag that to complete. Job done. Everything I've just shown you in the action pad, everything I've just shown you in the whiteboard can be done also in the timesheet. So Alana could actually just work from the timesheet if she wants to. And in the timesheet, we see a few more things. So I can see the 3 projects she's got on for this week. She had some non-billable time here for presentation skills training, which she hasn't logged. She had bill page content for the roadshow implementation. Could have used the stop-start timer for any of these. And we can see the non-working days. We can see there's 8 hours here booked here for annual leave, which has been approved, as well as Saturday. And then we can see that's counted up towards the annual leave, and the dark hours here, which we've already logged, count to 16. And she could just say save suggested hours and automatically log all that time, or mark that and submit it. Also, the power of mission control. If you've got a midweek, you don't have to have separate timesheets. You could say the end of month is on Wednesday. Just log and submit your time, save and submit your timesheet once you've finished everything up until Wednesday. When you come back for Thursday, you can do that from the same screen. You don't need to do that separately. If you're integrated in Salesforce into Outlook or Google Calendar, and you can see those items there, you see things such as the presentation skills training, plus including any events coming from your calendar. So I could actually log time from that project there. So it's already pre-populated. A lot of the information, I can just log it from there. There's approvals and rejections. So maybe Lana's had some rejections here, and you can see the notes here. Please log, I think it means please log a minimum of 0.6 hours, please log as 1 hour. So ways of actually doing that. A lot of other aspects. I'm going to log out of Alana just from a time perspective. And then if we go back to our project and hit refresh, we'll notice a bit of magic has happened in the background, because when we actually completed that requirements action as Alana, you can see the 8 hours scheduled, 8 hours completed, and that's rolled up to the milestone. So I've got a setting that says when all the actions are complete, what to complete the milestone. This was a fixed fee milestone billing project. So what's happened here is it's actually created a billing event. And that billing event is where you can have that handoff to do your invoicing. So that billing event in this example is based on a fixed fee, completion of the milestone. We're in Australia, so we're charging GST. And if we dig deep under the covers, we'll see a lot of that detail. The tax treatment, before we actually send that, a PDF of the invoice will generate. It runs about every 5 minutes in my org. And then the billing event items, this is where you have that integration. So if you're integrating, let's say, for example, into Xero using something like Breadwinner or Twix River or Zapier, you can automate excuse me, pushing that once it's approved through to Xero, for example, and then when that comes back, have Xero come back and automatically push that to the billing payment item. I'll just do that manually for now. Say, look, paid today, 3,000 plus GST, whatever reference code maybe they had, and hit save. Now, the reason I wanted to show you that is all this could be happening automatically with integration into Xero, whatever your finance system is. And as a project manager, all you care about is, I know it's been invoiced, I know it's been paid. You're not having to chase up finance or email people. You can see very quickly when that's happened. You know, we talked about the insights earlier, so we can see we haven't run the update yet, but I can see we've completed the billable value of this much, which is based on Lana's billable hours. We can see those hours here, and we can see the margin, we can see the invoicing. So all of that consolidated into a single platform, which is kind of amazing. And being able to share that information out to customers as well. So if we look at that from status reporting, here's an example of the project we had before, the roadshow implementation, where I'm giving a full status report to the client. So really useful, keeps them up to date. I've added some notes. We can see any risks, issues, change requests, what have you. I'm providing full detail of the work breakdown structure and where things are up to, so they know exactly where we expect things to complete. I've put a snapshot of the Gantt chart in there for them. They can review. They've also asked for a summary of all time logs and other aspects, risks, issues, what have you. And on top of that, you could also give them the online status report. So where, again, you're seeing a work breakdown structure with all the dates, so they can see that, as well as a read-only view of that Gantt chart views. They can sort of see, okay, we're at design, we can see where we're at, and this is what is expected to happen, as well as things such as those risks, those issues, and other aspects. So, how do we support you as a customer? First of all, if you want to have a call and discuss more about mission control, we get an understanding first of what problems you're trying to solve, because the thing with mission control, that is so deep and is very broad, as you hopefully you've seen. You may only need to use aspects of it. So when we want to do a solution demo for you, we'll tailor that to what your requirements are. And from that, you might decide to go through and do a 14-day free trial. We can then schedule a Q&A call with you to walk through the trial. We provide all the guides, a quick start guide, the implementation guide, what have you. You have access to our support, certainly, on trial. And if you come on board as a customer, then we take you through that onboarding plan. And there's a bunch of information there available, as well as monthly ongoing Cosmo campfires. Cosmo's our mascot, and a lot of aspects of that we provide you as part of your subscription. And you could go and get onto the learning portal today. So if you go to our website, you'll see a lot of these aspects, resources, pricing, but the learning portal. I mean, certainly Cosmo's Campfire webinars, I think that's extremely powerful down to a feature perspective. The learning portal, you can go through aspects of mission control yourselves. Additional resources, that business impact report, you can get that from our website. There's a bunch of ebook downloads, the brochure, which shows all the features in mission control. And of course, you can go to Salesforce App Exchange. So you'll see if you go to Salesforce App Exchange, there's a trial. Sorry, I shouldn't say trial. You can download now, saying get it now, run the trial, but there's also a test drive. So a test drive is an online account sitting on the cloud. It's not a trial. It's basically accessible to anyone who can access it from Salesforce App Exchange, where you can have a look at some of the key features of mission control, or as I just said, download it into a sandbox and do it a trial. We'll give you full access to our support resources, all our collateral, and yeah, you're ready to get up and running. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope that's been eye-opening and useful. And we've got a couple of minutes left. So were there any last questions we could cover off? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you very near in the future.